What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. So as you can tell by the title, I'm going to be reading your assumptions about addiction. I asked you guys on Instagram what assumptions that you had about addiction and recovery, and you guys came through with so many assumptions, and some of them stung a little bit. I am very, not defensive, but protective when we're talking about a person in addiction, but all of the assumptions were so good, and I think they're really common, so we're gonna talk about that today. If you're new here, my name is Jessica, and I'm a recovering addict who served time in prison. I will leave more information about my story and my journey in the description box down below. Also, I finally got in my free Adam merch. For those of you that don't know who Rowan Adam Clausen is, Adam is a man that got a 213-year prison sentence, and he never took a life. All he took was money. I will leave Ro's channel in the description box down below as well. She explains it much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. You hate it and love it all at once. Yeah, I can't think of a truer sentence than that. I loved how I felt because I felt numb, but I hated myself for it. I hated being controlled by a substance. I hated that my life was centered around that, and yeah, I agree. I agree with that statement. I feel like most of your followers are addicts. No. Very much they are not. I say we have a pretty good mix over here of people that have never gone to prison and never experienced addiction, and people that have or are still struggling. I think we have a really good eclectic mix of subscribers on the channel, so that people are more prone to it if they have to deal with trauma. Statistically, I would say that is accurate. So many addicts are led into addiction kind of by accident. They've gone through some kind of trauma and they don't want to feel that, they want to feel numb, so they pick up a drink or they pick up a pill, they pick up some kind of substance and they use. A lot of times, addiction is the symptom of a much deeper issue. A lot of people think addiction is the problem. Addiction is not the problem. Addiction is our solution to the problem, if that makes sense. So everyone, gets caught up on addiction. We need to cure addiction, but yes and no. Addiction is just a symptom of a much deeper problem. In my case, it was depression, anxiety. I'm a socially awkward duck. I'm a very socially awkward person, and while it seems like I'm an extrovert because I'm on YouTube, I am not. And if you see me in public, you will know that because I'll be like, hey, and like weird. I will make it weird. Yeah, that was rambly, but yes, I agree with that. In a lot of cases, trauma leads to addiction. Addicts always end up in jail. Not always, not always. A lot of times they don't survive. 100 people pass away every single day in this country from an overdose. 100 people a day. Sometimes they don't make it out, but sometimes they do. And I'm living proof that sobriety is possible. When you're in your addiction, you think it's not. And it's not even just that you think sobriety is not possible, but it's like there's such a disconnect there. I never thought that I could even get myself out of that world. And I don't want to say that I didn't have the desire to, but it was almost like that world wasn't real. It would be like me telling you about an animal that you had never seen before, right? Like a rare poisonous frog or something. And I'm like, that's not real, it doesn't exist. Just because you haven't seen this rare poisonous frog doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right? So to me, I had never seen the frog. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, it wasn't that I didn't want to get sober, it was that I thought it wasn't real. Like it was completely blocked out of my brain. You were proud to be an addict. That's a tough statement. I defended it, I'm sure I acted proud, but it was a defense mechanism. I don't think I ever was like, look at me, I'm an addict, and I might have seemed as though I was proud, but it was a facade. I knew what I was doing to my body. I knew what I was doing to my mind. I knew that I wasn't healthy. So I don't know if I would go as far to say I was proud, but I certainly defended it. Absolutely. without a doubt in my head, I defended my addiction. And maybe it did seem like that at times, because I would get into the argument like, this is just who I am. This is just me. You have to accept it or don't. You can leave. Like, you know, you don't have to be a part of my life if you don't like how I live. And that's kind of how I reacted when people were like, oh my God, please get help. Please get help. And I'm like, nope, this is who I am. So I'm sure it seemed like that. You get addicted the first time using opiates. No. A lot of these assumptions are in absolutes, so I never want to speak in absolutes because everyone is different. I would see people that would party on the weekends and drink with me and hang out and play beer pong all weekend long and then go to school all week and not drink. When I was a teenager, I would see that all the time. And even into my adult life, I would see people that would just want to party sometimes and then they'd go to work the next day. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand how they can just not do drugs sometimes, how they can just not drink sometimes. To me, every day is a party. So that just goes to show you that I've partied and done drugs with tons of people that never developed an addiction. And that shocked me, and that noticing that is what made me so interested in the psychology behind addiction, because I'm like, how though? Like, is this a fucking magic trick? I really didn't understand it, and I thought they were lying to me until I started to study the brain. And fun fact about Jessica, I studied psychology of addiction while in my addiction because I just wanted to understand myself, and I wanted to understand how these people could just do drugs sometimes. I never understood that. So to that, I would say no. The risk is high. The risk is high. But again, I never want to speak in absolutes. It is really, really hard for you, but also super hard for everyone around you. Also, love you. Love you too. I've said it before and I will say it again. Loving an addict is the hardest thing you will ever do. Whether it's your mother, your father, your son, your cousin, your daughter, your best friend, loving an addict is the hardest thing. It's the most, it's just gut-wrenching to have to see somebody that you love become a shell of a person. It is absolutely horrifying, and you walk around with constant fear of getting that phone call that no family member or loved one should ever get about your loved one. So being on both sides, for me personally, I think it's harder to love an addict. And I know that seems crazy to say, but at least I could turn that off. I could turn the worry and the fear and the anxiety and the depression off. For me, I have loved ones that I care about every single day, and it's so hard being sober, and I feel as though I can't help people that I love because they're not going to stop until they want to. So it's the most frustrating thing. It's the most heartbreaking thing. So just for me personally, I think it's harder to love an addict because there is no breaks from that. You know, there is no numbing for that. I'm always worried, constantly worried for my loved ones and friends. I'm gonna put these both on the screen. I see it twice just on this one screenshot that I have, but I actually saw this assumption many times. The first one says, only stupid people are getting addicted because everyone knows taking drugs can cause an addiction. This one says, uneducated people are more likely to be roped into using. I am slightly offended by that because I have seen brilliant people become addicted to drugs. Now, I am automatically attracted to intelligence. I love a smart person, and I love, I don't know, I'm just drawn to intelligence, and I'm not the smartest person ever, but REECE is very, very, very smart. He's analytical, he can solve problems like you wouldn't believe. The dude loves numbers and like spreadsheets and stuff. So, you know, that kind of hurts my head because it combines my two fears, tiny spaces and numbers. Ew. For all intents and purposes, he shouldn't have been a drug addict, right? Because he grew up in a great home and he was stable, you know, he didn't want for anything. His family is good, he's very smart, so he shouldn't have been an addict, right? Addiction doesn't care how smart you are, doesn't care who your family is. Addiction doesn't care what background you come from, what race you are. It does not matter if you're rich, if you're poor. Addiction doesn't care. It'll affect whoever. And REECE's brain chemistry decided that alcohol was his biggest issue, and that eventually led to meth because he was dealing with something from birth. You know, his brain chemistry just decided that he was going to respond in that way to a substance, and then ultimately he's a war veteran, he has PTSD, severe PTSD, and eventually his alcoholism led to meth addiction. I'm not the smartest person ever, but I would never say that I'm uneducated. I have my bachelor's degree. I loved learning. I loved reading. and still I became a drug addict. A lot of people continue using because they are scared to go through withdrawal. Yeah, you know, I've definitely seen that a lot, and people will hustle and do whatever they can so they don't have to go through that withdrawal because it's so painful. It feels like your bones are breaking, your hair hurts. I know that sounds stupid, but like every single piece of your body hurts. It is so painful that yes, people are desperate and will do anything to not go through that. So yeah. You forget to eat, sleep, and take care of yourself / your body. I actually got a few of these that say you don't eat good food, you don't take care of yourself, and so on and so forth. For me, I was a poly addict, meaning that I was addicted to more than one substance at one time, more than one different substance. So I would be on REECE, and then I was also on methamphetamine. And when I was on REECE, I could eat, and I felt okay. When I was on meth, nope, I hated it, couldn't eat food. So it wasn't that I forgot to eat or that I didn't know how to eat good or I didn't know about nutrition, I did. Meth is a chemical that made me not want to eat and would actually make my stomach hurt if I tried to eat anything. And then I'd realize that I hadn't eaten for a few days, so I'd scarf down some freaking sugar to bring my glucose back up. And so, yeah, so I'd be eating Milky Ways and Mountain Dew and eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to just raise my sugar level because I was basically starving myself without meaning to. I didn't want to not eat. I love food. I love food, but that is a substance that I had no control over. When I was on heroin, I was able to eat a meal or two a day, and I was relatively healthy as far as it goes to like food. I was eating on a regular schedule and drinking fluids. Meth was a whole different thing. I wasn't able to drink fluids or eat very much on meth. When in the midst of addiction, you don't care about anyone else's feelings. It looks like that. It really looks like that. When in addiction, you seem selfish because you have one priority, and that's to get your substance so that you're not going through withdrawal. So I know it seems like that, but addicts beat themselves up for acting a certain way at their family's house or for talking to their parents a certain way. We won't show you that. But I have seen a lot of people crying because they talked to their dad in a horrible way, or they stole money, or, you know, they just felt like shit. I've seen people, you know, tearing themselves down because they hated who they were because of how they treated their family and loved ones. So it doesn't seem like it when you're on the outside looking in, but I do firmly believe that most people care, you know, that they care about their loved ones, and they're just going through such a hard time and they feel alone, and that comes out aggressive sometimes. Not trying to be rude, I just feel some over-exaggerate it and some people under. Maybe. I feel like a lot of people try to downplay their addiction, but I don't think people exaggerate what they're going through. I tend to believe people when they tell me that they're so desperate that they feel like they can't get sober. So I tend to believe people. I haven't really met any, personally myself, I haven't really met any addicts that would exaggerate what they're going through. They're usually pretty honest about that. Sorry, but they smell so bad, like they never shower or something. Girl, I showered every day. REECE showered every day. I particularly cared. Actually, in Arkansas, I had to shower twice a day because it was so hot and I felt like I was dying because it was pouring in sweat. I knew plenty of addicts that would eat, shower, take care of themselves, take care of their dental hygiene, but then I knew people that didn't. So I never want to speak in absolutes. Chemicals respond to you in a different way. You know, to someone, a shower's not that important. To other people, they have to shower. You know, we're all different. I've never met someone high and thought, oh my God, they smell so bad because of drugs. You know, that's just me though. Maybe I smelled and I couldn't smell them, I don't know. Nothing, no one is more important than the drugs at the height of addiction. That's both true and false, you know? Our minds are just like, get the substance, get it. Our minds are obsessive over it until we get the thing that we need. Our brains tell us that that is the only thing that matters, and I don't really know how to explain it further than that. But yes, our brain is telling us you need to get it, and a lot of times addicts will do whatever necessary so that they don't feel the pain of withdrawal. I assume addiction is a choice at some point. You have to choose to try drugs to even be an addict. Okay, 55% of all addicts are prescribed a prescription pain medication by their doctor. They've gotten into an accident, they've hurt themselves somehow, and they need prescription pain medication. They've had surgery and they need it. That's 55% of all addicts begin with a prescription from their doctor. Addiction is a symptom of a much deeper problem. Now, like I said in the beginning, I've seen people drink alcohol on the weekends and not need alcohol. Now, most adults over the age of 21 have drinking alcohol because it is a very socially acceptable thing. The difference for me was I couldn't stop drinking alcohol, and that developed an addiction. So I'm sure people are gonna comment down below, I've never had a sip of alcohol, and cool, but I'm telling you that statistically, you know, the alcohol industry is a booming industry in this country, so most people in the world have tried alcohol before, so yeah, for me, first sip of alcohol caused my addiction long term. And I had no idea that drinking a beer at 12 years old would lead to a heroin addiction and then a meth addiction. I had no clue. I just thought, my friend's handing this to me. Oh my God, I have a friend. I should drink it. And then when I did, I thought, wow, this tastes disgusting, because it was like Busch Light or something. But once I finished the beer, I felt good. I didn't feel sad, I didn't feel awkward. So for me, addiction was a symptom of my mental health, and I suffer from depression and anxiety. It was easy to get addicted and it didn't take long. You're amazing, by the way. Yeah, it really didn't take that long, and for so long I was in complete denial. I didn't want to admit there was anything wrong with me, you know, because I had told myself for a long time, like, you're a weird ass person. You're alone, you have no friends, no one likes you. I told myself all that for so long. So once I started using, I'm like, I'm fine, I'm okay, there's nothing wrong with me, don't tell me there's anything wrong with me. So yeah, we can stop whenever we want to. I told myself that too, but I definitely needed help. During difficult times, you want to get high, but remind yourself of all the bad things. My depression is my biggest trigger, and I have to keep my mental health healthy or I'm not gonna be in a good place. You know, I wanna be very clear here. I am so protective of my sobriety because I know if I use, I'm gonna lose everything. I'm gonna lose my family, I'm gonna lose everything that I've built, and I know that. The idea of a relapse scares me, but it's something I think about a lot, and when I am feeling weak, I turn to my support group, and my biggest fan is REECE, and he's always cheering me on, and sometimes I just need to take a break. I will overwork myself to death, so I have to just remember to take care of my mental health. And that comes before anything else. It comes before YouTube, it comes before everything else that I'm doing. My mental health comes first. And if I ever need antidepressants to be okay, then I am completely fine with that, and I'll share that with you guys. You know, treating mental health does not mean you're relapsing, and I can't even stress that enough. And if you are on like medically assisted treatment, you are clean and you are rebuilding your life. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. All right, you guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope I made sense. I hope it wasn't too rambly. As always, I love you guys. Stay safe, stay sober, whatever that looks like to you, and I will see you in my next one.